Good morning and welcome to today's board gaming breakfast. Give a few seconds for people to fall into chat. Hope everyone's having a great Wednesday. I'm restarting my tablet because it's not linking to the screen share, so I am going to just do some tap dancing to distract for a couple seconds. Let's do. Then we'll restart the intro in a second. Just gotta make sure that it's syncing. Check sync. Checking the sync. No syncing errors. Wi-Fi is connected. So if we pull up remarkable live streams and we present with screen share. Alright. Let's try closing out of that. Boom. Alright, we are in the money. Hello and welcome to today's board gaming breakfast. For those of you who are new to the channel, I like to do a live stream every Monday through Friday in the morning to start the creative juices on the right foot. During these live streams, I'll bring a game to the conversation that has been on my mind or that I've pulled off the shelf because I like it for a few different reasons. And I'll spend the first part of the stream talking about the reasons I like the game. Then we'll transition into going to our Wheel of Mechanics and spinning it and having to brainstorm how to add a random mechanic into the game itself. And then we'll finish up by designing a game in 5 minutes or less. So sit back, relax, enjoy your cup of coffee or whatever you're having for breakfast, and let's get this show on the road. Today's game of the day is Guild of Merchant Explorers. And so this is published by AEG. Matthew Dunstan and Brett Gilberts are the ones credited for the design. And what it is a souped up roll and write or flip and write of sorts. And so the game comes with 4 different maps. And so they're double-sided, so there's 4 each side, and they provide a different style environment for you to explore, which changes up the game. And what happens is the game is played over a series of 4 rounds, and you can see this board here. These 5 cards get shuffled in, and then the first round, this card will be shuffled in, second round, third round, fourth round. So as the rounds go, you'll get 1 more action per round. And what'll happen is you'll draw the card after the deck is shuffled, and whatever is shown, you'll do that action on this board. So for example, if this one mountain tile was drawn, you'll be able to place a cube from your starting location or cities that you've built previously and explore outwards. And so you're building these little chains of cubes that once you complete different colored sections on here, the last space that you fill, you'll get to place a city into. And that's the core construct of the game. At the end of each round, you'll remove all of your cubes. You'll get to keep any of the cities you built, rinse and repeat for 4 rounds. And at the end of the 4th round, whoever has the most points wins. That's the high-level overview of the game. I'm not going to do a full rules teach. There are plenty of content creators that I will link to the description below that I find do a great job doing a rules teach. But the one part that I wanted to talk about today are these 1, 2, and 3 action cards down here, because that's what gives the game variety for replayability and makes it so that each player can't just duplicate what the other player is doing. And so what'll happen is the first time that card is drawn from the deck, so the first time we pull the level 1 power card, everyone will get dealt 2 of these action cards, which do a whole slew of different actions. So we got kind of can I do one hand? So we got all sorts of different actions, so each game will feel a little different. And they do special powers that, like this one allows you to explore 2 water, a mountain, grass, and desert. This one allows you to explore 4 desert and get 3 times the number of coins that you cover. This one is a continuous path, but it can be water or desert, and so they add different exploration actions that you can do when that level 1 is drawn, and so it'll create a various like power that you can take advantage of for the rest of the game, and I think those are like that is what the game. That's honestly the reason the game stayed in our collection, because the simplicity of having these cards that you'll flip and do the action associated to them would get fairly stale uh, if you didn't have these powers into them, because it would there'd be after like 3 or 4 plays there would be an optimal pathing for each map. It's like, oh well, I have to place this one here because that's going to always net me the most points, and the game would get figured out fairly quickly. But what these introduce are these game-breaking powers, like being able to explore 5 as opposed to exploring 1, 2, or 3, if I can, 3 in a row. These are fairly tame powers, where these are the ones you're wanting to take advantage of. And in the second round, that one that you picked will stay on the side of your board. So as you can see on the side of the board here, you'll have, like once you've selected it, that's saying the 1 is associated to this power. So the first card that you pick out of the 2, you'll get to actually activate at least 4 times, and then 3 times, 2 times, etc. But there's also in the 4th round this special card right here that allows you to repeat one of the 1, 2, or 3. And so that asymmetrical power and the fact that there's such a variety of the different actions that you can get from game to game really changes up how the game's played from each play, and feels super rewarding. I guess the second mechanic that I'd like to talk about as well is, if you look through the map, you can see these highlighted hex regions that represent ruins. And so when you place a cube on those spaces for the first time, there's this whole treasure deck that you get to pull from, and you'll get a reward. So sometimes it'll just be 2 coins, sometimes it'll be an endgame scoring condition. I think those are the only 2. Maybe there's and then sometimes it's placing an additional cube. So there's 3 different potential rewards that you might get, but it's unknown, so you're sort of discovering it. And so the thematics of like discovering buried treasure in these ruins is pretty cool, but it also gives that pull of, oh, should I explore the ruin, or should I make it to this trading post, or oh, should I try and it adds that like mystery of like what's in the box. It could be that really cool thing, or it could be, you know, a scoring condition that you're not really working for. And so that element of unknown and wanting to explore not only ties in with the theme of it, of the Guild of Merchant Explorers, but it feels really satisfying when you pull a reward that is super useful to you. And so with that, those are the 2 mechanics that I really enjoy of Guild of Merchant Explorers. The fact that everyone's getting these asymmetrical powers that you can use that will change from game to game to add more variety to it, as well as that unknown element of discovering treasure and trying to use it optimally, is a nice little flavor to what is primarily a filler game for us. I don't know if it has the stat. So it says 45 minutes on the box. We play in it about, Michaela and I will usually play in maybe 30 to 20 minutes. It's a pretty fast, quick game. And so it's one of those games, too, where you don't know who's winning until the end. And so it really, you can't tell if someone's pulling far ahead. And I like that personally in games where uh, you might be getting blown out of the water, but you still feel like you're enjoying the second and third rounds of it, because you don't know how much you're getting destroyed by. And so with that, that is our game of the day, Guild of Merchant Explorers. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on the game if you played it before, so please leave those in the comments below, and I'd love to continue the conversation of what your favorite mechanics are in the game. Pausing. That'll help for cutting up the video later. Alright, so now that we've talked about Guild of Merchant Explorers, our next task is to pull up our Wheel of Mechanics, and let me change to the spinning wheel. So we have come to our Wheel of Mechanics, and what we are going to do today is we're going to spin the wheel, and it will give us a random mechanic that we have to theorize and design into the game of the day, which the game of the day is Guild of Merchant Explorers. So I'm going to click the spin button, and we are going to have to be obeying to the wheel. So simultaneous action selection is actually already in the Guild of Merchant Explorers, so we're going to spin the wheel again, because that wouldn't be too hard to fit in the game because it already exists. And we got drawing. Well, you're drawing. So I first visualized that as drawing from the deck, but this is a drawing element to the game. All right, well, technically it's just a beefed up flip and right, so that would have a drawing element to it. So we'll try it one more time, and if the wheel gives us a same mechanic, we'll try and add a different drawing element to the game. Modular boards. Oh god. Technically there's different boards that you can play with. Oh god, alright, one more time. I'm determined to get a mechanic that doesn't exist in the game to design around, because all those are pretty easy to design into. Push your luck. Alright, so that's not technically in there. I know there's a hidden element of the treasure, but maybe we'll spend time expanding on that. So, what we're going to do is we're going to add push your luck into Guild. I shouldn't have picked this game. It's such a long title. Merchant Explorers. Alright, so we got push your luck into Guild of Merchant Explorers. And what we're going to do is we're going to give ourselves a 5-minute time limit to brainstorm how we might go about doing this. So I'm going to start. And for those of you who are not familiar, push your luck is a mechanic where it's kind of like gambling, where you want to push further and try your luck to get a better reward, but then sometimes you might bust. And so I think how I would end up doing this is this deck of treasure cards that we have could be cycled into having these bust cards shuffled into them. And so potentially it would be a push your luck set collection style thing, where instead of the coins and scoring conditions, they would all be different types of relics that maybe we have, like the chalice. We have the. Anyone got ideas for what other pieces of treasure we could find? We got the gold-plated sword. We got the fantasy smiley coin, and we got maybe an anchor, I guess. I don't know. But you have all these different symbols that get shuffled into the deck, and whenever you land on a treasure space or a ruin space to search for treasure, you can push your luck by drawing to try and find certain pattern criterias, and if you can get all 4 of the symbols, you would, we could all right, scrap the bust card, but your goal is that you can push your luck to try and get as many different symbols as possible, and then collect those, and at the end of the game, you'll have a set collection bonus to them. But if you draw two of the same symbol, you would bust and you wouldn't get any treasure. And so you could choose to, so we'll say that there's 6 different symbols. So we got some sort of iron ingot treasure or some gold bar, and then we have, what's another pirate thing? A bottle. Let's just do a bottle. Is it a little ship in the bottle, maybe? Yeah, we'll do a little ship in the bottle. And so there's 6 different symbols, and whenever you get a treasure card, say we drew one of these and we decided to keep going, and then we get a sword, and then we were like, oh, like, I'll go again, and then we get an anchor and we choose to stop there, then we would have one of each of those. And then the next time we land on a ruin space, we would say we drew another ingot, and we drew the cup, and we're like, oh, let's go again, and then we drew another cup. We'd lose out on getting any of those treasures, and that would be how the push your luck sequence goes. And then at the end of the game, there's potentially, we could alternate the quantity of each of the symbols, and there would be a reward bonus for whoever got the most of that symbol in the game. So say there's a lot of the smiley face coins, so I'm gonna waste time counting them, but we want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know, that feels like I could probably just look at the instructions. But let's say we got like 50 different cards. We would do the breakout of, maybe there's 3 of those, and 7 of those, and 11 of these, and 9 of those, and we're at 30, so then this could be 11, and that could be 9. And so the treasures would be proportioned like that. And so on your turn, you could then push your luck when you discover a ruin space to try to get a bunch of the symbols. What do we add on time? Oh, 10 seconds. All right, so we are going to stop there because that's a natural ending point. So to recap, our challenge today was to figure out how to add push your luck into the Guild of Merchant Explorers. And the way we did that was by modifying this treasure deck to, instead of include endgame bonuses, have we came up with 6 different symbols, and there's a different quantity of each. And so when you are exploring, instead of just drawing one card, you can choose to push your luck to try and draw as many of the symbols as possible without matching. And you can choose to stop at any time. And if none of the cards all have matching symbols, you would then get to collect them all and add them to your booty, which would be scored at the end of the game. But if you end up flipping 2 of the same symbol, then you would lose all of the cards that you flipped for that round. And at the end of the game, there would be different scoring points for majority of who has the most of which symbols to get extra bonus endgame scoring at the end of the game. So how I would test this is I would count out 50 of these, and I would sleeve them, and I would probably go to a website like the Game Icons or the nounproject.com and look for 6 pirate symbols. We have lost connection. All right, are we back? All right, cool. We're still connected. Screen sharing is connecting. All right, so we'll switch to the main camera to finish up this segment. But how I would go from creating this concept to testing it is I would sleeve these, and then I would find 6 different symbols from like the noun project, or 6 different pictures, and I would scale them to be this size card, and I would print out 50 based on the quantities that we came up with of. All right, so let's try to screen share again. But I would print the 50 different cards, cut them, and sleeve them. And the next time that we played Kill the Merchant Explorers, I would ask the table if they were open to trying this push your luck mechanic that I've been working on. I would explain or show them this video of the play style, and the last thing I'd have to do is assign what the victory points would be for each of the symbols. And then I'd go from then we try it out, and so we would see if it adds anything to the game or not. So let me know if you think this would be a mechanic that you'd like to see in Guild of Merchant Explorers. It's something that I could easily make a print and play of, so if you like it, let me know in the comments below. And with that, that is part 2 of today's live stream. So, the last part, we got to get the screen sharing to reconnect. So, hopefully it works without an issue. Looks like we're back, so let's do the last portion of today's live stream. Alright, so we will jump over to letsmakeagame.net, and for those of you who are new, we are designing a game in a 5-minute time window based on a prompt that is randomly generated by this tool that letsmakeagame.net provides. And so what it's going to provide for us is a genre, rule, setting, and theme that we have to design around. And so what we're going to do is click this generate button, and we got the genre is building simulation, the rule is no enemies, the setting is pirates, and the theme is rich versus poor. With pirates, no enemies? How can you have no enemies with pirates? I don't know, but we're going to find out. Alright, so what we'll do now is I'm going to reset the timer, and we got 5 minutes to see where we get with this game prompt. So we're trying to build up a pirate encampment, but there are no enemies. And I guess the best way to do that is no enemies means it should be a cooperative game. And so my thought is that we have the game board set in front of us, and we have different randomly dealt out construction cards that we have to build for the game. And so because there's no enemies, but it is rich versus poor, there is an inflation track. And so your resources start at full value, but as the game progresses, they become less and less valuable. So potentially it costs 2 of a resource type to complete so they're half as valuable there, they're a quarter as valuable there, and you lose if you can't build it there. And so potentially there's a few turns in between each of them. So the game is played over, let's say, 9 rounds, or 10 rounds? 10 rounds. And what you're trying to do is you're randomly dealt out these building construction cards because we're pirates and we want to build our encampment to live off grid, because this dang inflation's making it hard to live the life of a pirate, so we need to get off grid. And so there's potentially a construction cost that is needed to build the building. And we got the little building effect, and we got our little nice building house. With still the skull and crossbones because we're pirates. But we have our building that we're trying to construct, and maybe it's got a one-time bonus or a benefit, and its cost of construction. And so they'll start, maybe that's what it looks like on the front side of the card. And if we'll use some of our tech savvy abilities to put that over there and then copy it, paste it over here. And so this is the front of the card. Back. And we have the resource cost to build the building. And our goal for the game is to build all of the buildings before our economy collapses because our money becomes worthless. And so that is the core framework of the objective of what we're trying to do. But now we got to figure out what we would do within each round. And we got to do that in 1:20. And I'm going to cheat over and look at chat to see if there's any helpful tips that they've provided. I think that's a great strategy to board my own. Michaela is being silly in the chat. And while she's providing jokes, she's not providing helpful ideas for how we'll structure a turn. And so potentially, it's probably not a good idea, but my first idea was to do a slide puzzle. And so pulling off of the game of Juicy Fruits has something like that. And there is Sagrada style, but each pirate will be given a grid of randomly generated resources. And what you're ending up gonna is maybe everyone starts the game with ooh, that would be a interesting way. Oh. All right, the timer went off, so I'll finish up this thought and then recap where we're at and how we would go about testing this game. All right, so instead of losing the value of them, you would lose a cube at each of these spots. And so at the start of the game, everyone has 4 cubes. And because I think that this, so we'll do it over 6 rounds. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 or 7 rounds. But what you'll do is it'll be a timed based thing, and each person has a minute to place their cubes out onto their grid. And the spots that they place them into, say that's where I end up with, you get the resources that are orthogonally touching each of the cubes. And so we would get 2 of that one, and 2 of that one, and 2 of this one, and 2 of this one, because this cube and this cube are touching that, this cube and this cube are touching this, and so on and so forth. So that would be the resources that we gain for the round to help to assign to the buildings to build them. And you play it, that would be kind of the core structure that we'd start with. So I'm going to recap where we got to in this last 5.5-minute brainstorm, maybe 6 minutes. But in 5 minutes, we were tasked with designing a building simulation game where there are no enemies, but we are pirates and it is rich versus poor. And so I guess if this were to be a homework assignment, we probably would have failed the assignment because I don't know how much we included the theme of rich versus poor. But the top 3, I think we could argue that we passed. And so what we came up with is there'd be a stack of these buildings building cards that for the game you'd shuffle and deal out 6 randomly to the board, and we could expand this for more players. And so maybe there's 2 extra buildings you have to build in a 3-person game, and then there's 10 buildings. So for a 2-player, it's 6. For a 3-player, it's 8. For a 4-player, it's 10. And so we got that. The setup is you deal out the number of buildings based on the number of people playing, and everyone would get a random card to slide into their little player board, similar to Sagrada if you've ever played that. But what the card would show would be resource locations that, so it would be populated with a 4x4 grid of different resource icons. And so each round is a timer over 1 minute, and so it would be open discussion of talking as a team to figure out which building you're going to try and build for the round, or which resources you're going to try and get for the round. And once the timer is up, then you'll gain the resources that are orthogonally next to each cube that you placed. And once you've gained all the resources, you'll assign them to the building, rinse and repeat. Every second round, you'll lose a cube, and your goal is to build all of the buildings that are on your pirate island before the economy collapses, because the rich take all your money. And so I think that is a good summary of what we came up with. So the steps that I would need to take to get this to a point where I'd be able to test it is we would have to figure out the different types of resources. And my brain thought that there's potentially ability to combine resources to make others and make tools. That would be a later on step. I'd first want to see if this core framework of the game was even fun. And so what I would do is I would pick a number of resource types, so I'd say 4. And I would probably pull out a game like Century Golem Edition. And yeah, so I'd pull out Century Golem Edition to use those as the buildings that we're trying to construct. And I would not come up with the benefits yet, but I would do that, and then I would make a grid of randomly colored assigned to the, so I'd assign colors to each of that 4x4 grid. I'd create probably 2 to 4 randomly generated patterns of that. I would print those out, and then I would take some of our spare cube parts and probably take the timer from, what game do we have that has a timer? I guess technically I could use my phone's timer, and so we would then, I'd rope Michaela in to, and for those of you who don't know, Michaela's my fiance. I know I've said her name a couple times this stream. I'd rope her into testing it at 2-player, where we'd shuffle and deal out 6 golems to the board, and I would hand us each one of these sheets that have cubes to cover, and I'd probably take the timer from Mechs vs. Minions, because that's just a fun, pretty one, and I would explain, I wouldn't have to explain to her because she's watching the stream right now, but I would kind of go over the rule set, and we'd test it out and see if that speed time element is even fun. And so with that, that wraps up today's live stream. Feel free to leave comments below what you thought of our pirate simulation game. If you have any ideas of a way to add value and make this even more of a fun game to play, feel free to theorize in the comments below. If you like this type of content, please subscribe. I release new videos. So I live stream once a week, or 5 times a week every morning. And so you can find me there, or eventually I'll be reposting some of the cut down videos for you to view there. So if you like the content and want to see more of it, please subscribe. And with that, I hope everyone has a great Wednesday. Bye-bye. Hope to see you tomorrow.